Okay, guys, today we're going to look at string operations in Python. Remember, a string is just some text. Basically, think of it as a label. You can't really perform any operations with it. It can be numbers, it can be letters, it can be special characters, but you can't really perform any operation with it other than just reading it. We've looked at some string operations before and some characteristics of strings, and so now we're going to go a little bit further into detail to learn a little bit more about strings. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be using Notepad++ again, and we're going to be basically just doing the same thing we've been doing. Just a call. Oh well, that's annoying. I missed a phone call. All right, so let's go ahead and open up on our desktop and open up Notepad++. And that was our last assignment. So we're going to close that. So the way that you close things in Notepad++ is you X out, and then it automatically creates a new thing for you. We're going to save this as exercise, Python exercise _2. So I'm going to just go ahead and save it while I'm in here. Make sure that it's in the Python code folder. And we're going to say Python exercise _2.py. All right, and so now let's go ahead and look at some string operations. Basically what we're trying to accomplish here is, sorry about that, that was weird. We're going to see some things that we can do with a string. First of all, how to designate a string. When you're in your Python program, we're going to create a string here. And of course, we're familiar with the one we've already created, hello world. That is a string of text. For the most part, when you're using string structure in Python, you're going to be using the print function. And so we're going to print, let's see here, what do we want to say? We're going to print our name, full name this time. All right, now, as you're looking at the screen, notice, and I'm going to see if I can update this, whatchamacallit, see if I can make this a little bit bigger, the text a little larger so that you can see it a little better. So there should be an edit parameters in here somewhere, and that kind of hurts my feelings that I can't just find it automatically. But okay, never mind. I won't worry about that right now. What I am concerned about is the way that I built this string. Notice I put my name in there, and I designated it as single quote, my name, close single quote. Python will let you use either a single quote or a double quote to designate a string. So let's do that again. And we'll use a double quote. And you'll notice there's absolutely no difference if I run this program. Let's go ahead and save it. And we're going to bring up command prompt. Change to our directory. And there's our Python 2 exercise. So we're going to run Python exercise _2.py. And you'll notice it printed out exactly the same thing. There's no difference at all when using a single or double quote. However, the reason that you might want to do that is, let's say you wanted to use an apostrophe in the code here. Let's try another. So we're going to say double quote, happy to be here. And you'll notice I used a single quote in the text. Let's go ahead and save that. And let's go ahead and run it. I misspelled it. My bad. Let's try that again. 2.py. Notice what it said down here I'm happy to be here. It went ahead and put the single quote in there. Now, let's say we had tried to do that using all single quotes. Print, single quote. Okay. Now, watch what happens when I try to run this again. I get an error, unterminated string. So what happens is Python sees this pair of single quotes as the string, and then there's all this text out here with another single quote, and so Python's looking for a fourth single quote in here to make this two strings stuck together, and it doesn't work. So the problem that we run into is you can't have a single quote in the midst of your sentence if you're using double quote or single quotes out here to designate your string. So what you can do is, like we did up here, you can use double quotes on the outside and single quotes on the inside. Now, one more example. And let's use double quotes on the outside. Oh, pardon me. Let's use single quotes on the outside, and then we want to let's just use double quotes. There we go. And we want to make this a statement, somebody saying something in quotation marks. Oops. All right, and the problem that we're going to run into here, is it's going to look at that, but it's not going to do what we need it to do. Watch what happens. Nope. Can't do it. Notice it's gotten rid of all the quotes now. Well, basically that's what happened. The single or the double quotes rather canceled each other out. So if we want to use double quotes, then what we have to do, first of all, let's get rid of that line and run it again because it didn't do what it was supposed to do. It got done to that other line. I forgot to take that other line out. So let's try it again. There we go. So it looked at this as a start of a new string and couldn't find the other single quote, and so it died again. So if you want to use a single quote at all, you have to start your string out with double quotes. On the other hand, if you want to use double quotes in your string, you have to start it out with a single quote. We can save that. And notice now we've printed out the double quotes. That is the reason you'd want to use single quotes to designate your string, is so you can add your double quotes as part of a string. Same thing here, only this time we went back the other way in order to use. You notice I couldn't put the other apostrophe in here. To do that and to get these double quotes, we would have to use an escape character, which I will show you how to do in just a moment. But for right now, notice that we want a single quote in the middle of the string. We have to surround it with double quotes. If we want double quotes in the string, we have to surround it by single quotes. So let's try one more thing. We're going to use 3 quotes. Too bad. Hope. It's going well. This is a dot, dot. Boop, boop, boop. Dot, dot. Okay, so now we're going to try it this way. We're going to try to print out a multi-line string and see what happens here. By using 3 double quotes, we should be able to print out a multi-line string. So let's see if that works as a literal. That may not. We may have to do that as a string. Let's look and see. Yep, and it worked. How are you? I hope everything's going well. This is a multi-line string. So if you want to print out a multi-line string and keep the formatting, notice that my line breaks here and the line breaks here are all the same. So if you want to do a multi-line string and keep the formatting, then you need to surround it with triple double quotes. Or triple single quotes will actually work as well. Both of those things will work if you use that. That way you don't have to worry about putting some kind of a plus sign in the middle of your string. You don't have to concatenate things together. You can just type it out like you want to, and then use 3 single or 3 doubles to surround it, and it should work perfectly fine. So, all right, now we've looked at printing. What we're doing here is printing string literals. A literal is just string that you're printing out to the command line. But now let's look at actually assigning a variable, shall we? All right, so we're going to use str. Remember, we talked about naming variables. This is the way I like to do it, and we're going to go str tells us the kind of data we're holding. In this case, we're only going to put string data in this variable, and we're going to test a string. Notice I used camel case. I didn't put any spaces in because that's illegal. I started off with a lowercase letter because that's a requirement, and I use only alphanumeric characters in my string. So that's going to say the string name is equal to, and this time let's do just hello world again. All right, so we've established our string. Now we're going to print it. And notice this is a reason to use Notepad++. Notice here that when I start putting in the parameter, it automatically knew what I wanted to put in. And so it gave me the opportunity to pick that. And so now I don't have to type that out if I don't want to. Also, if I just hit down arrow and enter, that will speed up your typing a great deal. So learn to use the syntax hints from the program. It makes your life a lot easier. All right, so let's go ahead and save this one. And we're going to run it, and it should print out hello world for us for about the millionth time. And sure enough, it does. So we have basically created a string here. Now this is a legitimate string. This is the variable name. This is the text that's in there. Also notice here, when I highlight this, it highlights automatically down here. This is another useful tool that Notepad++ provides. If you're troubleshooting and if you have a lot of code all throughout the page, you need to find the different instances that a variable is being used. You can do that by just highlighting at the top, and it will highlight all the instances of this variable being used. And so that's very convenient. Pretty much that'll do the same with any lines. You could do a function if you wanted to find out all the print functions. You highlight this, it'll highlight it on down through the program. So there are a lot of tools in this program. You can print from it. It's a Word text editor. You can print from it. You can cut, copy, and paste. You can undo and redo. You can do search. You can do search and replace. You can do zoom in, zoom out. And I think I'm going to zoom in. Let me zoom in, will it? Well, let's see. There we go. That's what I was looking for a while ago also, is to make the text bigger so you could read it. And then zoom out, it's the same. Word wrap, we can turn that on. Also, we can show characters like end of line and paragraph characters. Indentation guide, this is a little bit later we're going to learn when we start using if-then statements and loops and things, that indentation is the way that Python controls its structures rather than having semicolons at the end of each line. And so this indentation guide is very handy. We define our language here. Essentially what we can do is we can tell the program how we want the style to look and the different things. Keyword lists, we can control what the keywords look like as we type them in. We're going to leave all that as default, but it can be done that way. And then the document lists, function lists, if there's a which we'll learn about functions a little bit later, but a function is just a block of code. And so every time we create a new function in this program, it will show up here as a unit, and then we can go to each function individually. So that's actually very handy. Let's see. And we can record macros. So you can use this button to record macros that will make your programming a lot faster. There are a lot of things that this program will do, and I will leave it to you to discover all of them. That's just a few. But anyway, let's get back to our work here. All right, so we've got our string name, and we've defined the contents of the string. We're going to use the print function. The string name variable name is the parameter, and when we run it, it does exactly what we expect it to, and it prints that out. Now, there's interesting things that you probably didn't know about strings in Python. They are not just single units. They are an array, basically. We learned a little bit about arrays as a data type. Basically, if you recall, an array is something that is a group of things together. So actually, all the letters in a string are the individual units, and we can pick out those letters. We can loop through a string and do things. So right now we're going to learn a little bit of advanced coding. We're going to learn about a for loop, which is anytime you hear the word loop, that should tell you it's a way of automating things. So we're going to learn about a for loop, and what we're going to do is we're going to loop through a word and see if we can figure out how to use that in our program. So we're going to keep our string name, test string, and leave the same contents in there. But now we're going to create a for loop. So the way we do that, obviously the keyword is for, and notice it comes up as a keyword. And then we're going to establish a temporary variable. We're just going to call it x. A lot of people either say x or I. So for I, that's a variable name. It's a temporary variable. It just works for this loop and no further. And now, when I hit enter, it needs to, for this to work, I have to indent. What this does is it tells Python that the next line is part of this for statement. So what I want to do is I want to loop through the string and print each letter one at a time. So what it should do is print an H, and then drop down a line and print an E, and drop down a line, and so on, until it prints the whole phrase vertically. So I'm going to go print temporary variable I. That should be all I need to do. So after that, it's got the content here for every I, which are the letters in this variable, in the contents of this variable. I'm going to print that letter followed by a new line. So it'll print an H, drop down a line, print E, drop down a line, print L, L, so on. So let's see if that works. We'll save it. We'll come down here and we're going to run it again. Uh-oh. What? Oh, and we forgot an important structure. In any loops, you have to put a colon at the end of it. That's my bad. Smarted myself. Let's try that again. And sure enough, it worked as expected. So it printed the first letter, dropped down, printed the second letter, dropped down. For each element in the string array hello world, it printed that and then dropped and moved on. And notice it automatically moved on to the next one and the next one. It even printed the space in there. So it even assumed that that was a character, which in fact it is. So we can loop through strings. Now, if you have to perform string operations, this is actually very handy. Let's say you need to clean up a database and you've got 10,000 lines of text that you need to clean up, and you need to get rid of all the single quotes or double quotes, or you need to get rid of all of a certain letter, or you need to do something to clean up the text. You can loop through all the text in that database, and you can change them, each letter individually, or you can examine that letter, and if, see, you would incorporate an if statement here, if one thing is true about that letter, then you can perform some other operation. So if you use a for loop, a lot of times then you'll use an if-then statement. You're not just going to print every single character in a text. You're going to look for each individual letter, check that letter for some condition, and then if that happens to be the case, you're going to do something else with it, if that makes any sense. So that's a thing that you might do. Now, strings also have some other built-in functions besides printing. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. And let's find out how many letters is in hello world, or how many characters in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the length function. And that is pretty simple. We're going to print it, so we want to be able to see it. And the length of our string, that's what we want to see, and it should give us a number. So let's come down here and go. And there are 11 characters in that string. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Sure enough, there are 11 characters. Now we have to include the space because in reality a space is a character you can't see, but it is in fact a case. It is a space, or pardon me, a space is in fact a character. There's an invisible character there. If you tell it to show all characters up here, then you'll see that there are some characters that you can't see, and that space is one of them. It counts as a character. So when we count that out, then that will tell us that how many spaces total, or how many characters total, including spaces, is what I'm trying to say. Sorry about that. All right, some other functions that you can do. We can search for a phrase or a character within a string. For example, if we had a string like hello world and we wanted to know if there was a W in it, so we're going to see if there is a W in our deal. So the way that you do that is you'd print it, because we've got to be able to see it, and we're going to go WO. Let's do it that way. Okay, so if there's a WO, it should print it for us. And sure enough, it doesn't print it, but it tells us. It tells us if there's a WO. It tells us the truth. Then we can print it out if it's in there, which I'll show you how to do that shortly. Now let's look and see if there's a G in there anywhere. So capital G, is there one of those in there? And if we run it this time, false. So there are no G's in our string, but there are in fact a WO. So we can print that, and I can show you how to do that, but you have to use an if statement, which we're not quite ready to go into yet. But it will let you, if you can say if WO exists in the text, then print WO is there. Let's see, what else? Some other operations for text. Pretty much we've learned about loops, we've learned about arrays, and we've learned about how to use quotes and the difference between using a single and a double quote. That's probably enough for this lesson, so let's go ahead and call it on this lesson. For the assignment, what you're going to do is you are going to create a multi-line string. In fact, let's just work through the assignment real quick. So let's go ahead and come up here. Now you can use a different quote than I'm going to use, but you're going to type in a multi-line quote. All right, so we have a multi-line quote. First of all, you're going to print it. And then you're going to find the length of it. And remember, you're going to print that as well. Oops, and I've already made a mistake, I can see. Can't have that. It has to be exactly the same. And then let's see if there is a, what, there's a character in there. Let's see what character we want to check for. Let's see. Okay, we're going to print IST. How about that? All right. So we're going to check to see if that IS space T is in the phrase, also that the length of the phrase, how long it is, and also just the phrase itself. So let's go ahead and save that, and let's run it and see if it works. And if not, we'll figure out why it doesn't. Okay. Uh-oh, did we miss a parenthesis? We did. There's that other one. See, for every opening parenthesis, you have to have a closing parenthesis. And if you don't, then this is the error. Python's actually pretty handy when it comes to errors because it tells you that that parenthesis was never closed. There was an open without a close. We found it, we fixed it. Now, let's see if that works. All right, so we printed it off. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of the party. It is 66 characters long. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 34, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 44, 5, 6, 51, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66. And that would be correct. There are 66 characters. And finally, is IS space T in there? True it is. All right, so what I want you to do for your assignment is to duplicate what we just did. However, you can't use my quote. You have to use a different one. So pick your own quote. It needs to be at least 3 lines long. And then go ahead and do exactly what I just did. If you need to, you can run back through the video and just do it step by step. But what you want to do is, once you have it where it works, then you're going to save it. And and then you're going to turn this script in as Python exercise _2.py. You're going to turn that in, and that will satisfy the requirements for this assignment. All right, guys, so watch the video and complete the assignment, get it turned in. And if you have any questions, once again, I'm available through the Canvas inbox, or you can come to the library, second floor, room 210. The sign out front says Canvas Help Desk. It's my office, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can. And until then, I hope you have a good day, and I hope to see you in class.